Welcome back to Triathlon RaceDay, the Ironman Pro Series pre-race show. I'm Connor Bollinger. Today we're headed to Oceanside, California for the third stop of the 2026 Ironman Pro Series. After 70.3 Geelong delivered a sizzling 4 hours of racing, we now turn the page to what feels like a World Championship caliber start list in Oceanside. But before we dive in, if you're enjoying the show, make sure to like and subscribe. It really helps us grow and keep bringing you coverage like this. Now let's bring in today's panel. Joining us, Olympian Ben Canute, Ironman 70.3 champion Justin Metzler, pro triathlete Evan Price, and our resident guru Blake Pfeiffer. Gentlemen, race 3 of 17 is here. We're talking Ironman 70.3 Oceanside, but before we look ahead, let's go back to Geelong and get your quick reactions from the last stop of the series. Let's kick it to Justin. Justin, what are your comments about Geelong?
Christian Big Blue Blumenfeld. Is there anything else to say? I called it in the Geelong episode. I knew he was coming in hot. He jogged in Ironman New Zealand. He was ready. He was firing. And it was even more sweet when he was getting dropped a little bit on the bike and everyone's saying, Christian's washed. He's not going to be able to pop through. Bang, 106 wins the thing. Love to see it.
Yeah, I think in our group we wrote him off, and then Metz shoved it right back in our face coming out of T2. Blue running crazy to start. Another big point is Kat 2-0 to start. Perfection from the start. She gets to choose her season now. I mean, this is Ben and Metz had both mentioned this early, but it was going to be the who coming out of the Oceania early start to the season was who's in trouble and who's rolling. Kat Matthews at the top 2-0 couldn't have gone any better. She didn't even just seem like she had to spend that many matches to get a win in Geelong.
Yeah, I got to say, it's not necessarily surprising overall. One, we have Kat, who has not been challenged yet, seemingly going at 80-90% in a lot of these races, saving up for the back half of the season. So that's one thing that we kind of predicted and saw. And then the clash of the big three. It was very interesting. I would be so curious to know what the bike was like, because it seemed to take something out of the legs of both Hayden and Yele, but Christian was just able to close in the time that we all kind of predicted. We thought a 106 was going to take the race. Christian laid down a 106, but then 108 and 109, while very stellar, especially off of a hard bike, I think we all kind of mentioned not otherworldly, kind of like the 106 on pace for like a 104 halfway through the race. So those were kind of my takeaways from Geelong.
Yep. Saying a 68 and a 69 is not race-winning times is pretty mind-boggling. I will say Hayden Wild came into this saying that he was in, 2.5 hours shape, and I have it written down that he led the race for about 2 hours and 50 minutes, so kudos to him for surpassing expectations, you could say. Slipping down a third, whatever. Short course guys took the L. It's all good. The two that were probably favored to win ended up winning, so what are you going to do?
Amazing. I really enjoyed the race because I watched the run with my father, who doesn't really watch triathlon, and immediately Christian's on the camera, on the TV, and he was like, that guy doesn't look like a triathlete. And then Tamara comes on the screen, and he's like, she's really fast. She's running by everybody.
I think that was the most aggressive I've ever seen Blue look on the run. Like they kept on cutting between Hayden and him, and Hayden makes 109 still look like jogging somehow. Yeah. Blue looked like somebody who was like racing a 400. He was just tilted.
Yeah,
going all out.
Apo said it looked like he was running 400s on the track.
Yeah,
he was on the toes. He was really going for it.
He's running so aggressive on those little winding downhills they had on the path. I was scared for the age groupers he was coming by.
Dude, I was scared that he would set off like a seismograph or something down there.
I'm sure Ben had some flashbacks, too, of ITU racing. That's what it reminded me of, was ITU Blue.
It looked like the Olympics when he won. That's how he looked.
It did.
Yeah. And obviously, shout out Kat. Amazing again, run form dominant, total race.
Great stack, though. Tell you what, she was close. She made it. I mean, she made her sweat a little bit.
Fastest
maybe
run of the day.
We'll see.
I thought that was one light thing that none of us really touched on. I think everybody feels like Tamara Jewett's going to come in with the fastest run every time, but Grace Stack beat her by 30
She got
Tamara
she got her by almost a minute.
Almost a minute.
Wow. Yeah, Grace is historically going to be in a more dangerous spot in races than Tamara's going to be. So if those two are running as well as they are, they can make some noise here.
Yeah, well, I saw that minute gap, and I was like, damn, she really closed that at the end there.
Yeah.
Real quick, let's go to the standings of the Pro Series currently. Trevor with the short-lived crown drops to second, while Blue returns to number one, a familiar spot for that gentleman. Kat continues her reign as she looks down on the women's field of the Pro Series, and maybe she needs a little rest after her Oceania stint. Tamara in second. All right, let's go to the stakes here at Oceanside. As similar to Geelong, $50,000 prize purse, $25,000 each gender. We got 3 slots up for grabs, 2,500 Pro Series points. And it's a gold tier race. Guys, how do you feel that this is a gold tier race? When I looked that up, I said, what does it take to be a diamond?
It just has to be a world championship or Roth, right? Aren't those the only diamond?
Those might be platinums.
Or platinum. Yeah.
I'm like, this is what diamond's
what
made for.
What does it go? Is it platinum,
It's
diamond,
irrelevant.
gold?
Yeah, Blake, what's up? I'm sorry. Yeah, now can you? Because I thought it was diamond and then platinum.
I'm pretty sure all world champs and Roth and maybe I don't know if it's every T100 or maybe just grand finals are all platinums, and then there's a step below diamond, which what the hell is diamond for if it's not for this field?
Is there a
So-
diamond race? Is there a
Where
single
does diamond
diamond
fit in
race?
there?
Yeah, I don't know, but apparently it's gold, 3 slots, diabolical. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
One more.
Anyways, it's like the Ford 1150. Like it's there, nobody buys it. It doesn't get enough love.
It's a great car.
Speaking of not
before
getting enough love, Ben really threw that jacket on, expecting a big reaction, and we just sort of
Oh,
ignored
yeah.
it. So let's
I
give
love
Ben like
that.
15
That's-
seconds to talk about the
No,
jacket.
easy. We're going in. And this
Where did
is
you get this jacket?
I got a message once on Instagram about hey, we want to send you a jacket, and it was like Top Gun stuff or like either random jackets. And I'm like, oh, sign me up. I don't even know who it was, what company, whatever it was, but you got the I feel the need for speed, the remove before flight tag, Top Gun on the back. I'm ready to go.
That's awesome. Yes.
No, I think Ben
beats
is
the
Ben is in a little bit of a unique position. I believe everybody here has raced Oceanside, but Ben not only has won, but he's won twice. So I think Ben has a little bit of a authority when it comes to speaking on Oceanside.
And you know what, guys? I'm not just excited for Oceanside, all right? I'm aching for it. I'm yearning for it. I want to inject it right into my veins. And with all due respect to the races we've had so far, the venues, Oceanside is the true start to the triathlon season. If you don't like Oceanside, you don't like triathlon. It embodies the spirit of tri. And it's not just because of the course, the freezing cold harbor swim, the rolling tank roads on the bike, the run along the Pacific Ocean. It's the town. It's just up the highway from the birthplace of triathlon. And it started over 20 years ago in a rundown military town, and it has transformed itself into a charming beachside vacation destination that opens its doors to thousands of triathletes from all over the world to race on the roads. It's the triathlon community, the friends, family, competitors who line the streets, creating this racing atmosphere that is both palpable and buzzing. And it's the history. Oh boy, is it the history of this race. Legends line up over the past 2 decades in Oceanside's Titans clash. We have Olympians versus world champions. We have had total domination, sprint finishes, and everything in between. And you know what? A win in Oceanside means something. It doesn't predict October, but it announces to the triathlon world that you have arrived after a long winter of training. And gentlemen, this weekend is very top-esque with the best of the best lining up for an absolute dogfight on the streets of Oceanside in both genders. So put on your helmets, strap on those oxygen masks, and get ready to turn and burn, because the winners are going to be immortalized on the winner's plaque. There's no points for second place. And I just got one last thing to say. I got the need for speed, and only a race like Oceanside can satisfy it to get me going for one hell of a triathlon season. So let's get this going, guys. I am so psyched.
Round of applause.
Kevin
for Mr. Ben
Jensen.
Canute.
That whole
Oh
NASCAR,
my
ladies and gentlemen, Star Trek has nothing on Ben Canute. That was
Thank
awesome.
you,
Now they
thank
say
you
the
for coming to
pros-
my TED Talk. That is all.
They say the Pro Series doesn't start until Oceanside. I don't make the rules. That's just what they say.
I completely agree with that.
I'm ready to
Well,
get
just
just out
start
from St.
list, like-
George over there.
We've had quite a few star-studded start lists, but once we dive into Oceanside, truly international, the real start. And you know what? I touched on the course. I'll just go through it real quick, a few highlights, because like I say, it's not necessarily the courses that make the race, it's the people in them. But I think a couple key things from the Oceanside is it's not going to be as chilly as usual. We've had a bit of a warm front with the waters. We're in El Nino, which is a warmer ocean water, so maybe not as freezing cold as usual. However, that's always a shock to the system before the sun rises, and you got the blinding sun on the way back in from that harbor loop that just makes it impossible to see anything. On the bike, it's not the traditional super paved nice roads. Bottles will be ejected, nutrition will be lost, carbon will break. It is jarring out there, and it's rolling partially an uphill on the way out, falls flat. You got a few really good kickers in there, and if we get the weather that Oceanside deserves, there will be some massive winds coming off the ocean that just make it a grind back into town. And the run course, you'd think it'd be nice and flat next to the ocean. It just isn't. You have the pier that you're running up and down, and then to get on and off the strand, you probably got, what would you say, it's like a 15% grade, something like that. It's basically a wall for about 200
It's a staircase.
meters.
You're basically running upstairs.
Basically, and and then it's rolling from there. 2-lap course, but the laps are a little funky. It's not a full 2 laps, but that basically sums up, and you finish along about a mile to a mile and a half on the strand next to the ocean, flat. I'd say it's a partial downhill, falls flat downhill to the finish line, so it just makes it screaming fast all the way in. And I'm not removing
I
this
think
jacket
next
for the
to
rest of this
Roth-
episode because of Oceanside and Top Gun. So I'm sorry, the blazer is underneath, but this jacket is trumping the blazer today.
I think the finish line, too, is a top, I'll say, 3 just visual from the camera in the sport. I think you got Kona, you got Roth, and then I think the like long shot you get from Oceanside is amazing. Like, it's such a cool shot, and especially when it's a sprint finish or there's something close, the camera can I mean, you can see, like, it seems like a half mile down the strand, and just the run-in is amazing with the beach on the right there from the camera.
And it's just, you got you can
I
have
think
cameras following plenty of space too to really just capture the environment.
Yeah.
I mean, the drone shots there too are incredible. So yeah, it's just
Oh, they are.
I think
Yeah.
I honestly think this is one of the best races in general in triathlon, just for all those reasons.
When you think of a Pro Series course, I think the contrast to what we saw in Geelong is going to be pretty stark in terms of just difficulty. Like, if you're a rookie triathlete, I would not recommend this course. It is sometimes cold.
No,
It's
it's
a
not.
brutal course. You're going to be uncomfortable a lot.
The entire day will be hard. Yes.
But my favorite, which I always love to highlight before, is where you get the cycle behind the strip mall and then you go through the chain link fence onto the bike path. That's like one of my favorite parts.
through the
through
commissary
the
parking
tank
lot
tunnel.
on the military base. Yeah.
Yeah, that back parking lot has not been patched or anything in probably 20
Ever.
years. And also,
They're just going to keep it that way. That adds an element of
It does. It does, 'cause
difficulty.
everybody, just like, you want nutrition on the bike? Too bad. It's going to the commissary parking lot for the rest.
I have had
I should do a
every
Tom
experience
Rinaldi
back
like.
there.
Yeah, I should do a Tom Rinaldi like walkthrough video through that. Like, this is it. This is the infamous parking
You
lot.
would, you'd be able to,
sorry,
but
do
you
you have
can't
some-
because it's an active military base, so that is off limit.
Exactly.
That is
That's
donation.
That's true.
what makes this a little more complicated.
Shout out Purple Haze for asking me if I wanted to get on early, but I'm not racing. Ben's racing, Evan's racing, Blake will be there, and Big Mets, are you racing? I didn't see you on the start list.
Nope,
are you?
I'm sitting and watching and absorbing.
He's being
There you go.
smart. Yeah.
Is being smart. All right, guys, let's kick it to our sponsor first before we dive into this start list.
Triathlon RaceDay is brought to you in part by... This episode is brought to you by Grindstone Collection Strategies, because podiums are cool, but direct deposits are better. If your prize money goes MIA or a race organizer is ghosting you, Grindstone is here to chase it down. They specialize in getting businesses paid, and if you're a pro triathlete, they'll do it for free. Zero fees, zero nonsense, just results. Hit up grindstonecollections.com, fill out the contact form, and don't forget to tell them that your friends at On Your Left sent you, because nothing says I'm serious about my money like sending in Grindstone.
All right, let's move to the men's start list. Guys, little sabermetrics on this start list. There are 30 dudes ranked in the top 100 ranked in the PTO in the world. So safe to say this is what you can call a championship caliber race, in my opinion. Should be a diamond at least. Anyways, Evan, who is your favorite? Who is sticking and jumping out of that start list for you for this race?
So I see 3 names here that I think in this field are going to be at the top. Okay, so you can't not say Blue. I know that I will say that with the travel, I'm a little bit worried about. It's 3 races within such a short time period, but the cross world travel is going to be a curveball for him, and we'll just have to see how he handles it. If he shows up, his bike works, and he has no cramping, which he has not experienced in a while, I think he's fine. I think he's probably the winner, but depending on the second guy, here's how healthy is Casper Stornes coming into this race? Is it his rust buster, or is he coming in really fit? Casper, I think, is right there with Blue. And then I think the other name coming off of his Dallas performance that you have to consider now, because if there was a swim in Dallas, there is an argument to be had that Lionel Sanders does not win that race. And that the man on this panel, Ben Canute, does win that race, which makes, if you're toe-to-toe with Lionel early season, I think that puts you in a conversation to win even a field like this. So I know there are a lot of other names that factor in there, but hot hands coming in, those are the 3. The world champion, Casper, Blue just came off a 106 mid, and Ben Canute just went in a non-existent swim race toe-to-toe with Lionel Sanders. Those are my 3.
Is this my promotion to tier 1?
It is, because I have to eat a lot of crow for the last year. I'm eating so much crow right now.
Drop the mic.
I just ate the entire crow in like 2 bites there.
Before we tuck further into this, I need to throw this name out here. I know he's high up on the start list, but Jonas Schomburg, in my opinion, feasibly, I think he's the only one that is going to split Norwegians up. I honestly do not see many other people on the start list even getting a sniff in with those 3. I think Jonas is the guy. I don't know when, but I think he's definitely a strong favorite for a podium. And, with the Blue travel, stuff goes wrong. Casper, Gustav aren't up to snuff right away. It's their first race back. Then sure, yeah, he can win, but, he might take 1 of them, 2 of them down. But I really don't see him taking 3 down, but I think he'll be in between it if I had to pick.
Leaving Jonas off that list for me is tough. The only reason I'm leaving Jonas off is I just want to see one really good 73 run from him.
Servanios.
Jesus Christ.
Servanios gets a mention in every race.
Every single podcast.
I know it was 19 Ks. I know it was
He did
19
win, yes.
Ks. Okay, but he ran like 5 minutes into everybody else there.
Okay.
And
But
he is the toughest guy probably on the start list.
I'm not doubting him. As soon as
That's a
all I
bold
want to see is
play.
in a field of this caliber, his 73 run hold on.
Outside
That's
of
all.
Ben.
Well, guys,
No,
you guys
I'm
are
not even taking my stuff out of it.
the
It's
70.3
Christian
worlds.
Blumenfeld.
Yeah.
Christian Blumenfeld is by far probably the grittiest athlete, even from just watching the past few races.
I
No
think
way.
Jonas
You
is.
could
I
chop
think Jonas.
Christian
You think
Blumenfeld's
Jonas is-
leg
Yeah,
off.
There's
and
no
still be
shot.
running.
Blumenfeld will destroy himself every
I
day of
meant
the
toughest.
week.
I meant toughest.
Jonas is a wild card.
Blumenfeld's a
Yep.
psycho, man.
Yeah,
Nope.
that's
Yeah, Jonas-
I'm arguing the same thing. We're talking about the same thing here.
Yeah.
We're given no. Jonas is a different breed in that in the past, if we take his ITU stuff into what he's doing now, he almost doesn't have a pace in mind. He just goes hard the entire time. He has one pace, which is suicide pace, and it either works out for him or it doesn't, which is absolutely incredible. He does that, whether it's an Ironman or all the way down to a super sprint. But Blumenfeld is somebody who I think can pace, but he's also willing to absolutely destroy himself. And I don't think you ever see a better pain face than on the face of Christian as he's barreling down, like terrifyingly, whatever road it is, like when he's like that. So I will not disrespect Jonas for his absolute, just gung-ho, right from the gun type racing. However, I think... I like to consider myself a gritty racer, but I think it's hard to place anybody above a Christian Blumenfeld as far as just pure grit goes.
If we're talking about favorites, I'm going to double down on my Blumenfeld from the last 2 races. I think he's coming in hot. I don't think the travel is going to affect him whatsoever. I think he's not going to have any mechanical issues like he did last year in Oceanside or in New Zealand. He's going to be dialed and ready to go. He's looking for another 5,000 points.
Are you worried about his bike at all?
2,500.
Serious question
sorry.
is he not at the top? Like, okay, so he gets dropped in Geelong, and I think, was it Metz, you or Ben, somebody messaged the group where they're like, does Blue know something we don't? Okay, he knew he could go 106.30. That's what he knew. Are you a little worried on a tougher bike? Does he get exposed by like now I'll agree with Blake I think a Jonas Schumberg can drop Blumenfeld on the bike.
Well, they asked Blumenfeld in his post-race interview, was that a strategic move or were they gapping you? And he said it was a little bit of both. It also kind of seemed like on the second loop with the age groupers, it did just get a little bit hairy. It got a little bit chaotic.
It did.
I think he was trying to ride a little bit more stable. Hayden also I think Hayden was thinking about Blumenfeld, right? Hayden was going to the front. He was dictating pace of that bike. Blumenfeld said, hey, if I back off 5-10 watts here with the 20-meter draft roll, you're not getting quite as much of an advantage sticking with him. I think he knows exactly what he needs to do to win the race, and I think he will do the same in Oceanside.
So if he's a little gapped coming out of the water, I mean, all I'm asking is how much time can Blue give up to, let's say, a Ben Canute and Jonas Schomburg, like let's say some guys get away.
I do feel like there's going to be a lot more gap fillers here. I feel like if we're talking about a start list with 20 really good guys, it could be a quarter mile long, right? So you could have Ben and Jonas off the front, and you could have Blue a minute back but still in contact. So I think this is going to be a totally different dynamic. I think the back half hills, like as you get into the military base, that will potentially break things up. You'll have gap fillers falling off at that point, but I think that gives Blue the opportunity to leapfrog his way to the front and ensure that he's coming off the bike at least with a manageable gap. And we've seen that if he's within 2 minutes of the front, there's not going to be many guys in this race running 106. If he can do the same thing he did this past weekend,
back-to-back
I think
weekends.
He's going to be hard to beat.
I mean, just if you want to talk gap fillers quick, like this field spans the entire spread of triathlon swimmability and bikeability, honestly. Like, there's going to be people everywhere going back, forth, left, right, sideways. You know, it's just the nature of this field.
Can I'm gonna name a favorite quickly before Connor. You name your favorite.
No,
we can't
I was
overlook
just going to
Sam.
make a comment about Christian. No, sorry, go.
We can't overlook Sam Long in this race. I feel.
That's what I was going to bring up.
I feel like this race suits him. I think he made a wise decision skipping Dallas. I feel like he's coming in with a focus on the Pro Series and intention for the season that he maybe hasn't had in previous seasons. And he's proven that he's one of the best over 70.3 in the world. So I do think that he's in the favorite conversation. Is he going to be getting the same amount of hype as Blumenfeld, Casper Stornes, world champions? No. Gustav Iden, we haven't mentioned as well. But I do think he needs to be in the conversation for a potential threat for the win.
Yeah.
Does he have any historical podiums here? I didn't see any in the second report.
Blake, do you know?
Not off the top of my head. I only have his last year's stats.
But going back
but I
to
can check
the, I guess to the bike and towards the tail end of that Geelong race and the dynamics of a field like this, Tim Reed did say, he's like, I think Blumenfeld's pulling up and this 20-meter draft can maybe allow athletes like this to race their own race and manage it a little bit better. I don't know what that means or what he meant by that, but are we seeing any good side effects or bad side effects of these 20-meter drafts? Like, does it benefit Christian Blumenfeld? I don't know if there's any validity to that.
Oceanside is a very different course from what we've seen so far in the Pro Series, especially being a half Ironman. Like, a lot of these races have been done at very high speeds. We got to take New Zealand out of it a little bit. That was a little bit with the road surface and it being an Ironman. That starts to wear on you in different ways, and the speeds weren't as high. I mean, Geelong, they're going 45K an hour plus. Once you start getting faster and faster, that 20-meter draft, like I thought Christian's strategy was hang on to the back of that. You're 5-6 people back. You are saving a little bit of energy. You're pushing maybe 10 watts less than the guy at the front. And we all know Hayden is very aero and can drill the bike. He was at the New Zealand TT Champs against UCI cyclists and holding his own. He was just off the podium on that, I believe. So he's a very good cyclist.
Yeah,
I actually thought
fourth.
Jelle Geens was a little bit aggressive. He didn't have to be the aggressor in that race. So Oceanside is different in that first half is a bit of a false flat uphill the power you're pushing, especially with the 20-meter draft zone, everybody is going to feel that. If you're coming out even a minute behind and having to pass guys who are all pushing 350 watts at the beginning of a bike, you're pushing 400 at the very beginning. That we're not going to see that I guess come to fruition or pay off or explode until the back half of the bike, when you get the spikes on the climbs, the wind into town, and then late into the run as well. So this is a course that is sneaky. It's not traditionally super fast overall. You know, we've seen, like, I think Christian's 107 there last year after getting the flat on the bike was probably at more on a level of a 106 or 105, considering this course. Like, usually I believe Lionel would run like a 108 to 110 to win this sort of race. And yeah, and it's just going to zap people's legs. And then there's the final thing of, if you get somebody like a Jonas, who I talked to him after Ironman Frankfurt last year. Dude didn't even look at power. He just liked seeing 50K on his bike computer. And so he just wanted to hold 50K as long as possible. He's not riding with the thought of, can I hold this or not? So
I'm surprised he has a bike computer, actually.
And how many guys are going to destroy themselves and blow themselves up trying to hang with somebody like that?
Yeah.
So I have my results for Sam Long. Past 3 Oceansides was a DNF in 2019, a 7th in 2023, and a 2nd in 2024 were his past 3 Oceansides. And I wanted to add a comparison to another American right next to him in the start list, is that Jason West has beaten Sam Long at Oceanside 2023 when Jason was 2nd, Sam was 7th. If we want to segue into Jason.
I'm glad you just brought
I
up
had Jason West written down because we need to have a
Yep.
conversation around the guy who could potentially run quicker than Blumenfeld. I do see Jason West have. I honestly feel as though Jason West will have the fastest run of this race. I don't know where that's going to put him in the finish. I think that could potentially put him 4th through 6th, but I feel like he is going to go diabolical on this.
I'll throw one other name. I'll throw one
race.
other name at you, though, to consider. And this is, I know everybody's going to roll their eyes here for a second, but
Ari Clow.
Ben got to witness what that was looking like towards Ben. You know how quick he was moving in Dallas. The guy, he's got his blisters.
Do you know how quick Blumenfeld?
In 10 days, blisters aren't healing, bro.
No, they're not, dude.
Do you know
I'm
how?
just.
Do you know how
I'm
great
just
that race would have been if there
out
was a
there.
swim?
Bring it in.
Do you know
And
how
Ben, start
I
over.
hate Ari? Definitely took that out fast, not taking that away from him. But if you're going to say Blumenfeld is going to be affected by travel, is Ari going to be affected by his blister? Because it seems to come up out of absolute nowhere. Within 1K, automatically. We've had guys bleed on their feet. We've had all sorts of stuff. And I'm not taking anything. Blisters are fucking terrible. Although I do run barefoot every single race, 70.3 and below. But I will say, this race, like, I've listened to them break down him, Justin Reilly, and Jackson. I've listened to them break down all of their stuff too. But what we have to do, like, Dallas was a very interesting situation in that we all rode kind of our race in general. I think Geelong, some people got pulled out of their race. New Zealand, some people got pulled out of their race. But everybody's been able to run their race because the field has been competitive enough to be hard, but not so crazy that you have to keep track of 20 guys who are trying to take flyers off the front. Some guys' cards are going to be to blast the bike and say prayers on the run. Some guys' strategy is going to be...
So do you think guys will run slower? Do you think we will see slower run times in Oceanside?
Yes and no, because it's whoever can stick to their game plan and be a cold-blooded killer until the very end. Because you're going to get Jonas Schomburg with a few guys who are going to ride super hard. You have to stay probably within a minute or two of them if you want a chance to win the race. If you're coming out of the water 3+ minutes back, you are going to have an exceptional bike or run or both to close those gaps on, frankly, probably 5 or 6 guys who have all been on world championship podiums before. So this is the first race of the season where we're truly going to see, with the 20-meter draft zone, with how competitive triathlon is getting, where is the swim actually? We've been saying it doesn't really matter very much, or people have been saying that. but I'm still the belief like the swim takes something out of you. I think in Dallas, the swim, even though 300 meters took something out of some people's bike legs. Like if it was longer, who knows? But in all of this, like I think those are two dangerous runners in Jason and Ari, but I think Jason has that extra little bit where he has swam at the front before, and then the question always is, that's just a good point. What is his riding like right now to put himself in a position? Because he maybe is one of the few guys who could come out 3 minutes or so behind on the run and still be in contention for a podium if everybody has the race they think they're going to have, because he's just so fast.
Ben, I have to ask, you said Dallas, a lot of people rode their own races. Was that just because of the TT start, or do you think some of these smaller fields, and I'm definitely not saying Oceanside, because I can't imagine Oceanside is race your own race kind of day, but do you see that happening more often where people will race somewhat of their own race?
It's an interesting question. I think it was race your own race a little bit because the bike was pushed hard, but I wouldn't say that the pack of us raced, above capabilities for a 70.3 ride. Like I chased after Lionel and Leonard Arnold for a little bit and just realized the power was too high. So I was like, okay, I can allow them to go off with the position I'm in as well, knowing where I started in the time trial start and all of that. Plus just having that as a race to just gauge where fitness was. The stakes weren't as high in a Dallas race as they will be in Oceanside. Like if you're talking winning Oceanside, the Pro Series standings, all of that, you really have to make your racecraft has to be so good at a race in a Pro Series that's so competitive, because you can get pulled out of your own race really easily.
Right. Any other names that we want to pull out of the start list that we're overlooking? I mean, we haven't said a lot of these names. Do you want to talk about
two?
Beyond?
I've got 2 points, and I think they're in kind of a similar category. And I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts on how the Pro Series is going to be impacted on how people race this. Because it seems as though for folks like Rudy Von Berg, for folks like Leon Chevalier, these are guys who aren't going to be necessarily in position to win the race. Rudy might be in podium position at some point. I don't think Leon will be in podium position. But you kind of have to go for broke to make this worth it in the Pro Series. Like, if you're not going to go all out and you're going to come 10 minutes behind, what's the point in those points and coming over and going through all of it? So I do feel like it's going to push athletes like Rudy and like Leon outside of their comfort zones and really force them to try and get as close to the podium and take those risks on the bike. So those are two who I feel like could ball out, but a little bit less consistent maybe for winning huge races like this.
No, I think that's valid. I think that's part of the conversation of, like, those are athletes I think you would say are prioritizing, like, the long distance Kona, right? Or do you think that they're, like, they want to do well at Ironman over 70.3, but
or they just don't care, and they're trying to tick the box on a 70.3, right? Like Leon Chevalier might be here, he might be like, I'm going to get 1,500 points, I don't care, I'm doing Texas, I'm going to try and win Texas. Rudy might be saying, I'm trying to get my first 70.3 box ticked just so I can have my 5 scores. If that's a 2,000, I'm happy with my 70.3 performance. I'm trying to win Texas and Placid.
I mean, I think Rudy more than those two guys. I mean, I see Hogenhaug being similar to that. I see maybe a Hoffman, Stepniak. Like, there's a bunch of guys that are Ironman focused that I think are just here to tick. Maybe a 2,000 points would be pretty solid. Yeah.
Oh, I'll give two more important names, and to hear names that we all know very well, but not to forget them, is one's the course record holder is Jackson Laundry's coming back into some really good fitness right now. Anybody who obviously follows the podcast, but also knows that he's been training very, very hard. This was marked on Oceanside is his target. And to say that a Jackson Laundry is not going to factor into this race, if he swims 24 low, 23 high, and is a minute off that front pack, a good swim for Jackson, no reason he can't bike up to them. I mean, the guy's proven again and again he can bike in any field. And if his runs where it was at when he set the course record, which was right around that, I believe he ran 110 that day.
I think.
It was the year he beat Allie Brownlee, who ran down Allie Brownlee.
Yeah, one more that I want to mention here is Colin Such, because last year I felt like he really popped on the scene. I felt like he was riding really, really strong. We saw that in Boulder 70.3. We saw that in Placid. And he was just consistent, I feel like, across the board. And so he could be one on this bike course to really mix it up. His swim also has come along quite a lot. I was swimming with him down in Tucson. I felt like it's getting there. And so I could see him having less of a deficit on the swim, being in contention on the bike, and him having one of the fastest bike splits here. Run might be a bit of a question mark, but very solid runner, so one to watch.
Where's his bike compared to last year, would you say, Mets?
I'd say hard to say. I didn't ride with him in Tucson at all when we were training down there, but the sessions he was doing seemed pretty solid. So I would say equal, if not maybe a little bit better, because he's young. Every year he's going to get a little bit better.
He's going to get stronger.
I will say, Zutch is kind of an asterisk in a sense of he kind of went through a sophomore slump, which is crazy to say because he still had a somewhat successful season, but he went through a lot more hiccups and experiences, which obviously will come to benefit him later in his career, but definitely not a dude to sleep on.
Yeah, no, and he had a great
needles
end
point
to
up
his
for
year.
sure.
I ran with him a little bit at the end of Ironman Arizona. So I think is being coached by Ditlev's coach now as well?
Correct.
I feel like he made a coaching change. So I think that's big. And I mean, frankly, like I think to kind of wrap this up, I have not really picked any favorites because unsurprisingly, I want to pick myself as a favorite because you got to back yourself in every single race. Evan kind of stole my thunder there, surprisingly enough, to announce myself as one of the favorites. So thanks for that, Evan.
I was planning
one way or another to
stealing your thunder.
conflict and butt heads with me.
I didn't know who was going to glaze Ben harder, Ben or Evan. I wasn't sure, but Evan took the cake.
I was expecting you to pick me as the favorite, Ben. Come on. That was the trick.
But I just want to say, I think this is such a hard race to pick because, I mean, Evan, you bring up like when we talk about like Ari and Jason as fast runners and we talk about, you know, anybody like the strong cyclists or the guys who don't pace, like anybody from Jonas to, you know, Christian Hogenhag to the Norwegians to any of the U.S. guys and like Sam Long and stuff. There's so many guys who have performed, won races, been on world championship podiums. It's almost coming to the point where do you start drawing these lines of who is going to be actually competitive? Because all of these guys have great resumes. We have great resumes like all the way down just through 30, 40 guys who, you know, on a day, if they have great winters train, they make a level up or they get some more experience, they could be winning these races. So that's, I think.
Yeah, but 20 guys can't be on the podium. You're right. That's the thing.
That's true. But
20
that's
great
where
guys, not everybody can be on the podium. Yeah.
And that's where it comes down to, I think.
Only pays A deep.
I think it's about what's their past execution then. Because this is where I think every time I go on a start line, I'm picturing everybody in their best possible shape. I'm looking at them as what are they actually capable of. But at the end of the day, when you take a look at all of the contenders, you take half of them out because something happened, sickness, overtraining, mechanicals. You take another half out because of poor race execution, and all of a sudden you're left with only 5 or 6 guys. And which guys are guys who continually to execute again and again and again, or are starting to do that. So I think we've probably covered.
And before we move on to, I know we do need to move on, but I'm going to throw out 2 names because I think they're going to impact the bike too a lot. Which I think always in Oceanside, the bike is a huge factor. We're not going to miss on this guy again. This Marius Jekerset. How much did I butcher that? I'm sure I butchered.
No, I think you
the
did
heck
good.
out of his
I would have
name.
hit that. Yeah.
That man's bike in Ironman Switzerland was, I don't know enough about this guy. I'm sure his power profiles are absolutely insane. I believe the stat I found there was he biked 14 minutes into Fred Funk on that Ironman Switzerland bike. And those 2 are going to affect this. I mean, when we talk about all those fillers, along like whose wheel does Blue try to follow, they could affect a race because if Blue decides to try and follow that wheel, that completely changes the race.
Let's go through the remaining names here real quick, and then we'll move on to the women. So we got.
I can take two of these guys that were really good and solid on the T100 circuit is Antonio Benito, who was second in Texas as well.
I'm not sold. Bad. Keep going. Not sold on Antonio.
Okay, well, I'm just saying.
I actually like with Bali on this one. No, I actually think I agree with Bali. Is over Ironman. I like the guy. That's he has a 7th in T100. Correct. He has a 7th in one of those races.
Blake. I'm sorry. You shouldn't have started with Benito. Go to the next
Henry Rappo. I like Henry Rappo a lot. I think he's really, really good over in Europe, and I'm excited to see him come over to the States.
Give us his best challenge. How do you do in Serbani Yas though?
He did not race Serbani Yas.
Then why are we even talking about him?
All right, whatever. Ignore it. Whatever. Move on.
If he gets a podium, I need to eat that.
Like, we can only take so much short course propaganda.
They're not short course guys. What are you even saying?
Henry Rapp is not. Yeah, he's
move on.
Blake's Euro ITU bias is just getting too thick.
Dude, now
We
you know
need
why
him here,
I
though,
have to-
because that's our blind spot. So
I
Yeah,
gotta
that's
keep
true.
a
That's
check
facts.
on him though, because sometimes we get a little too heavy with that. Let's just go through some names
Whatever,
then who
man.
qualified before we get into the women's. All right, so we said Ari, Justin, Zach Cooper, Vladimir Solak, Ben Hamilton, Casper Stepniak, Cam Worf is going to be one of those guys. Caleb Noble, Jonas Hoffman. We already said Leon. We got Tom Davis, Jan Stratman, top 5, 70.3 world. Matt
yeah.
Collins, podium at Eagleman last year, absolute hammer on the bike. Adam Goulier, he's from France, so you know he's probably fast. Mark Dubrick, top 10, 70.3 world. Matt Kerr. And then you got Joe Skipper, who got bib like 45th.
Shout out Joe
Disrespect
Skipper,
to
low key
Joe.
though.
Let's go, Joe. Come on, I want to see Joe grab a top 10 in this field. That's
Yeah.
how
He
can
got
you drop
second
out of the top
page.
200?
Who started 70.3 worlds, who's qualified. We got Ben Did, Colin Zutch, Sam Appleton, Henry Rappo, Sam Long, Jason West, and Christian Blue, those who already have a slot. Now let's kick it to our sponsor.
Triathlon RaceDay is brought to you in part by. This episode is brought to you by Texas Grassland Beef, a family-owned and operated ranch delivering high-quality, 100% grass-fed and grass-finished beef straight to your door. Their cattle are raised the right way. No hormones, no antibiotics, and a focus on real nutrition to support both performance and everyday health. Whether you're training for your next race or simply want better food for your family, they ship premium bulk beef nationwide. It's convenient, clean, and sourced directly from the ranch. Head to txgrasslandbeef.com. That's txgrasslandbeef.com to learn more and upgrade the way you fuel.
All right, so let's jump into the women's race. Blake, let's kick it to you. Who is your favorite for this women's race?
This might be a hot take, but I really like Grace Theck off of that Geelong race. Outran Tamara. We mentioned this earlier as well, but outran Tamara by almost 60 seconds and Kat by about 3 minutes, and really put herself back up into the race after losing a bit of time on the bike. And I really think she's coming on good to the 70.3 distance. And maybe this field's a little bit too much for her to take a win, but I think she will be up there if she recovers well from Geelong and the travel and everything.
Hold on, Blake.
I'm surprised
Your
you didn't.
that's your favorite?
Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't take
That's
a
your
Kirsten Casper,
over
short course
Taylor
girl.
Nib?
I don't like picking the top of the list every single time. Sue me for
my God,
wanting
Blake.
a fun take. Oh my God,
This is
man.
Taylor Nib.
I know,
Open and
Taylor Nib's
shut.
the obvious thing. I just don't want to say Taylor Nib. I'm sorry.
I respect it, Blake. I respect it.
I don't like being.
I just need to scream at Blake
you can
today.
Pick Christian,
Yeah.
you can pick Taylor, and you can move on and have a good day and probably pick the correct ones. But sue
I
me for
know.
wanting to go out of the box. I
She's
like
just-
Grace's race in Geelong.
It was.
Sue me.
It was.
Yeah.
I will give a big shout out to Grace on that. That was
It was
an
a
amazing race.
Great race. Yeah.
Does anybody want to pick somebody outside of Taylor here? I mean, there's a couple other names, but is anybody going to say
I
not
think
Taylor?
there's.
Who are you
I'm
thinking?
going to move
Evan?
on to. I'm going to move into
have
like maybe a
Shouldn't have
dark horse situation or somebody who has a pretty good outside shot at mixing things up. I actually think Kirsten Casper. She won Indian Wells' first one ever. She can swim at the front. She's been strong on the bike and she can run. But I think that's just an interesting pick outside of it. Besides, like, you know, I think Paula Finley is always a player at Oceanside. Like I don't even know when's the last time she was off the podium in Oceanside. I feel like that's just such a consistent start to
Pull
her
it up for
season.
you.
Was it that 2023 she kind of had some issues on the run, I believe, and I think she got bumped from the podium
I thought
there.
there was a year she did.
Yeah, but
mean,
she was
so-
leading the race up until 2/3 of the run, and then she
Yeah.
went through some issues.
Who's your name here, Metz? Or are you just going to be with me on Taylor?
I think that this is one of those start lists where you're looking at Taylor winning easily, Paula second, Jackie third. How many races do we see Paula and Jackie going 1-2, 2-3?
That's a lot.
Almost every single North American race. I think Taylor is just far and away the better athlete here. I think particularly on this bike course, she's in this swim. She's going to have a gap out of the water. She might be with a couple stragglers. She's going to dominate the bike. She's going to cruise a 120 and win the thing. I think Paula's going to give her a run for her money on the bike. I don't think she's in necessarily that run shape off injury. And I think Jackie's consistent every day of the week. She just won Dallas. I know it wasn't her best ever performance, but she's going to knock out a solid performance regardless of how she feels. And so that's my podium.
Paula has raced every Oceanside from post-COVID, and her record is 1st, 6th, 5th, 3rd, 1st.
That's pretty.
I mean, it's pretty good.
Solid
That's
there.
pretty good.
I'll say I think Taylor Knibb is one of the most meticulous people who prepare for races. So despite going and winning a T100 race like this weekend as well, I think that probably her ability to bounce back from that, I maybe am not as concerned, especially I guess like Justin was saying with this start list, like her biking is just pretty incredible at the moment, especially. And this is
I also
this
feel
is a
like
tough
if
course.
she was smart, which I know she is, and her coach was smart, which I know he is, they're looking at this double and knowing that Oceanside is a priority. If you looked at that T100 start list, there was no challengers there. And I think she would have come into that T100 race with almost more fatigue. She would have maybe trained a little bit more on race week, knowing she was going to have to travel back and be ready for Oceanside. I could see her in better form for Oceanside than she was for the T1.
I mean, when you talk about triathlon wars, I think that difference in start list was pretty apparent between those races. But yeah, to your point,
I think that's a very important aspect of this was the difference in quality of start lists here, Oceanside to that.
I didn't see Taylor struggling like Blue was in Geelong in the T100.
Yeah, she got to have
Gold
a
Coast
relaxed day.
race. So I really don't think she was cooking herself too much, even though
Does
It was
does
closer than
Solvik-
I would have liked
yeah,
at
even
the
though-
end
yeah,
of that
yeah.
with
Yeah.
less than a minute to Foligar. But I do think she was probably getting splits. She was understanding
She knew
that
her-
she
I
had
think
it
her and
comfortably.
Kat
She
had
knew she was
similar
racing the
days.
next
Cat,
weekend.
yeah.
Yeah.
Blake, I was gonna say it was almost an exact mirror of what was going on with Kat there. But
Yeah.
I mean, so the name we have in message is Solvig mixes into this. There's no.
Does she?
I just don't think
Paula and
yeah.
Jackie
Does
have a
she?
cakewalk to the podium here. I think Solvig's going to give them problems.
This is
for
one of
sure.
I don't know. I
Hangover
think
too, Ben.
This is one of those, I think, 70.3 versus Ironman athletes. Solvig's bike is no doubt world class. Her run, very solid. But does she have that little bit of speed that she needs for 70.3? We saw her in Marbella. Granted, coming off right before Kona win, coming off
She was
Kona win.
sixth.
Like
A month.
she was she was sixth, but it was still not.
She won in Jesselo
with
too.
the
I mean,
tail.
she's won a 73, and then she was on the ZLMC. I think she's a quiet 73 athlete. I think Kona, obviously, that's what we're all like. Oh, okay, she's just this Ironman athlete. Guy, she ran. Okay, Jesselo might have been never trust a Euro course. She ran 1:16.28 in Jesselo.
Short.
Yeah, I don't know. What was that? A K short?
19K.
Blake, maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
19.
You're
Okay,
allowed to give
Mass
me
days.
70.3 courses 20Ks.
but she went 1:19 in Worlds. So like,
Yeah, but
I
this
feel
is-
like Ironman is very much about not slowing down, and now you're looking at how somebody like Taylor Knibb or
surge.
Paula races a 70.3. They attack it, particularly
They do.
attacking the bike. They do not wait for anybody, and I could
It
see
looks like
her
an
just
Olympic.
being a solid third here, being a solid fourth. I could see her beating Jackie. I could see that
Yes,
potentially
that's-
happening, but I don't
that's-
see her touching Paula or Taylor.
I think her and Jackie's going to be a great battle all day because I see them together on the run at some point.
Third,
I think
fifth.
Jackie and Solveig are running together
cruising,
on the run.
right? Like,
yeah.
and they're not going to
And
run
they'll be pushing each other.
117, 116, but I could see them
I
both
think
battling.
Paula needs to be a little worried about both them. If they're together, Paula obviously is going to bike very strong. She always does in this course. She's going to swim bike strong, but she does. It's usually Paula ends up in these situations where, like, let's say that Taylor's up the road. Let's just say Taylor's won the race and it's over. If Paula's sitting in second, it's like 3 minutes. Paula holds on well, but she is used to getting run down, and I think Jackie and Solveig running her down is going to make for a race. I think it's going to be a very exciting podium battle between those three.
Ben.
All right, so I just want to say I think the one thing that could have really had an effect on the race, for especially when we're talking about the best cyclists, is what is the weather going to do and what is the wind going to do. So I did a quick check on the weather. It looks relatively calm. So going back to even the men's race, course record could be in danger because there's not going to be as strong of an off-coast wind coming in, slowing us down going into T1 or T2. Same thing with the women's. Like if we were talking about massive winds coming in off, which is very normal for like a coastal town and for this stretch of road that's in Oceanside, that could change how the race is done, especially in the women's race. If things break up a lot more and you don't have any packs and people are riding individually, that's when aerodynamics and then how you use your power really come in. And we know Solveig can really ride a bike well. So that's where I think, unless we see something drastic change in the weather, that weapon is kind of taken away a little bit at the end. But that's just, something a little extra.
Yeah.
I think a name that we're maybe overlooking here that I see that is kind of could be a Slovak is Danielle Lewis. Like when you talk about 20 places difference at 70.3 worlds, but for some reason on a course like this, and I don't know Love Seth's like 70.3 historical race, but I think this is a race Danielle could really like just be one of those people that slips in at like a 4 or 5 and beats a Slovak.
She could be in the
I
battle.
couldn't disagree with you more.
Really?
Oh, let's hear it.
I really
Let's
do
go.
not feel
go.
like I really don't feel like Danny Lewis's performances in deep or competitive 70.3 fields has been there. She's a star at Ironman for sure, but I feel like she's such a diesel where she just sort of comes through on the bike. Like her swim is always going to be a deficit. She's going to be steady on the bike and she's going to be steady on the run. That rewards people in Ironman. I feel like in 70.3, particularly fast ones with ITU girls in it, I think she's going to have a tough time breaking the top 5 here. I've got
Right.
3
I think
women I
the
do
only
want to mention
reason-
beyond that.
Well, just the course difficulty. Like she did well at St. George, Oceanside. Go Blake.
Go on, Blake.
I'm just saying she was third
She's
at
looked good in
70.3
Oceanside.
Oceanside and second in St. George last year in pretty deep fields.
That's what I
And
mean.
That's
Oceanside's
true.
a
That is true.
grind, too.
Think she's one of those
Oceanside is a
athletes-
grind of a race.
She's one of
4 to
those athletes. Well,
73.
she's gritty. Everyone knows that. She's tough as nails.
Yeah,
but
she's
she's one of those
absolutely- she's
athletes
tough
that
as
like
nails, yeah.
that loves like doing like that does well at the same races. I feel like she's not like one of those athletes that goes and does like I don't know, like Ironman Jacksonville and would like excel at. I feel like she goes to races like I don't know. I was just
She's
thinking
not
of
going
like
to
a
Ironman
random.
New York 73 this year. Yeah,
But
she's
you put her
not
on a
trying to
hard
race the
course. you're
Hudson.
gonna- But to Betts' point, like I don't think she
Yeah.
historically a deep start list she does not perform well in.
Yeah. I want to mention 3 women here, and the first one that I think is really going to rip up the bike is Adele Leakin. I feel like her bike every single race is really solid, and I feel like this one in particular on this course, she's going to be flying on the bike. So I don't know if she's going to be a threat for a podium, but I could see her bridging up to a 3rd place off the bike, and it's just a matter of what she can run. She's going to have a little bit of a deficit out of the swim. Second one that I want to mention is Vittoria Lopez. I feel like these ocean swims do really suit her very well. She freaked out, I think, on the bike in Dallas with the wind. That's never going to be something that she's going to enjoy. I feel like the hilly bike course here, and if I'm not wrong, she's raced here before, which I think will give her some familiarity.
I'll pull it up.
And her run's always solid.
She has.
So she could be an outside podium threat. I don't think she's going to be in the stratosphere of a Nib or Paula on something like this, but I could see her featuring. Final one I'm going to bring up is Amelie Kretz, who was podium at Augusta 70.3 and Indian Wells to finish 2025. Those were her first 2 70.3s, 2 podiums off the bat. She'll swim at the front of the race. She rides super solid, and I could see her having a good run here. I could see it top 5 for Amelie.
There's
So I
another
gotta-
name that we all have
Yeah.
have talked about this before. Ben might be just about to say this name is when we're talking strong cyclist, good swimmer, almost the I think she's coming into almost like a Ben Canute-esque type of form in the women's field. So Grace Alexander, I think, is coming off of a long long training block. Very long training block. This is her debut this year. She's not going to be tired from a race. Anybody who's been kind of loosely following her training too, she has very much been focused on the run. Like she's probably coming in off her best running block of training in her career. So that was her only weakness. She's mixed around the front of races. We all knew the one thing was just Grace doesn't have that sub 120 run. So just in a big field like this, could she ever compete for a podium? If she comes into 119, 120 range fitness this year or this race, I do think she's a sneaky one to be in the mix for that podium, like scaring some people that maybe are the Jackie Herrings or the Danielle Lewis, the more cemented names on podiums. Don't sleep on Grace Alexander in this race.
Those are the stories we root for, and obviously we'd love to see it.
Yeah.
100%.
What do you guys think of
Anyone else got any-
Sif, Benix Madsen? She's a strong cyclist. I saw it was 11th at World, and she was coming off an injury. Like this could be somebody who's coming in the race and probably, as Evan would say, if she's had a really good winter of training, good training block, you just never know.
11th at 73 Worlds too.
I like the
That's a
Kristen
strong result.
Casper pull from Metz. I like that. I like the Crispin Casper pull from Metz.
Kirsten's a great pull.
I think Casper's the one that
That's
we're
what-
all. Okay,
Yeah,
so
I was saying
who would be the
Kirsten
Is there a
one?
world where Casper wins this?
Yes.
Is there a world where Nib has a tough travel, We
Yeah,
have
cramps, something.
Paula, who
Yeah.
has had injury to start the year. She has had bad days at
Yeah.
Oceanside, right? She
Okay.
has had a 5th and a 6th, which for her is
Kirsten
contextually
can
bad.
beat everybody else
Kirsten?
squared up. Like, I think she
She
can beat
can.
everybody else.
She has the capability, especially if we take what she's done in the short course world. But it's she had
Yep.
one. She broke out and had her great race at Indian Wells. I want to see how she does in a star-studded field like this with a lot of pressure from all of the sides, because we can't also mention Indian Wells without the whole golf cart fiasco breaking a few of the top women's bikes right before the race.
Yeah.
And
Jackie was
How
right.
that
That
impacted
was-
Jackie's
like,
state
that-
going in.
that does
for
not
sure.
count as a race
100%
against
not
Jackie.
taking
Yeah.
away. It's not taking away Kirsten's win. Like, winning a race in this day and age is not easy, but I do want to see. I think she'll be out of the water with the front girls, and then what are her bike legs like on a course like
the bike's gonna
Oceanside,
be- yeah.
which I will say potentially suits people coming into 70.3 from short course racing a little bit better than an Indian Wells or a Dallas or something where you have to be in aero all the time. There's a lot of climbing.
Yeah.
There's
A lot of time out of
a
aero.
lot of opportunities to like stretch out the back and everything if she's pushing harder than she has before. And if her run, if she's healthy, we all know her run is really world class from what she's done on the short course scene. So that was one of the first names I was like,
I've got
got
one
the
thing I
best.
want to
She's gonna
mention
break up
quickly before we.
All right.
additional.
Last
Go,
thing
Matt.
to
Who is getting disqualified in the speed zone, men and women?
Sam.
Oh, that's a good. Everybody throw out one name. Everybody, okay, men's. Throw
Let
out
me
one
go to
name.
it.
Who's
I'm
getting?
sorry,
You know, it's not even going to be a guy that's on our scouting report. It's going to be like you, Evan.
I was gonna say, who's the boy?
It's got to be a Euro who doesn't understand what's getting said in the briefing, so I'm going
doesn't know the
Antonio
kilometers.
Benito for sure.
Collins.
Can't do the
Jonas
kilometers
Schenker.
in his head. Yeah,
This is 58k an hour.
I'm saying Marius, the Norwegian guy,
that's
just
good.
buys the house down in
Yeah.
Swiss. He's going 42 miles an hour through there. He's like, what? I thought we were in kilometers and not.
So I was there was the last race briefing.
He's British.
Ouch! Ouch!
The last race briefing we had, they talked about this, and there was the race operations director, like the COO for Ironman, was in the room because I was asking for some clarification, but he got up. He made it sound like it could potentially be last year was one of the last years with the speed zone because they're building
No
a
way.
new road that would take you away from that dangerous downhill corner or something like that. So I don't know. You know how infrastructure
not even
is in the
dangerous.
U.S. It could take 10 years to get
Yeah.
that road done still. But there is a small
The contracts
opportunity
are
for
still
us to
contracting.
show up and then go, no speed limit. So
Yeah.
just small.
Just everybody
Small.
yelled loud enough in the meeting.
All right. Does anyone have anybody else? Should we just mention who's qualified for 70.3 Worlds real quick in the women's field? We got Grace Theck, and that's unofficial. This is as of a day plus Geelong, but I'm assuming she took her slot. Jackie Herring, Danielle Lewis, Grace Alexander, Victoria Lopez, Kelly Barton, shout out Kelly, Kristen Casper, Nikita Paskowitz, Irish name there. Those are your 70.3 World qualifiers. Anything anyone else wants to throw in there? Any other names?
Were there
that we
more
should show some
70.3
love?
world qualifiers on the women's side than the men's?
No, there were
for
a
this
ton of them
race?
then.
Yeah.
2, 4, 6, 7.
Yep.
Two. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
there
wow.
is.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That is.
All right. So before we get into the fantasy game, that's our preview for 70.3 Oceanside. Thanks to Ben, Justin, Evan, and Blake for joining the panel. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to like, subscribe, and follow along all season long as we cover the 2026 Ironman Pro Series for everyone here at Triathlon Race Day. I'm Connor Bollinger, and we'll see you on Race Day.